everyone, and welcome back to our winter season. This time we're bringing on Amanda Weaver, author and creator of a Racing Heart series. Some of you may remember her name from the time we covered her story, Kiss and Collide, on the podcast during our book club. Amanda, thank you so much for coming out to the podcast and joining us. We're so excited to have you here. How are you doing? Good.
Doing
We're
good.
still reading a lot of F1. I do have to ask, with everything that's out there right now, what inspired you to write your story, the Racing Heart series?
Well, Chelsea, as you know, my husband has had a podcast about Formula One for several years now, since I want to say 2012 or so. Um, so it's been Formula One has been a part of my life, like in my house for a long time. And I was not a fan. My husband, when we first met, was he had been a professional cyclist before, semi-pro cyclist, and when we first met, I was not a sports person at all, but because of his interest in cycling, I got into cycling. I watched Tour de France with him every year, and I knew all the rules, and I watched the season, and when he got into Formula One, I was like, I don't think I can follow you into another sport. I think I'm done. But the more it was sort of there on in the back, I kept watching it thinking, my God, this sport is so, I was writing romance by then, and thought, sport's so high octane and it's high energy, and it's sort of glossy and sophisticated, and the drivers are all really charismatic, and this just feels like custom made for romance writing. At that time there was a little romance, Formula One romance out there, but not a lot, and so I just thought, I'm going to try it. And I actually started writing it quite a while ago, and it just took a while to find a home. um, but yeah, it just seemed like it was made for romance, and I'm clearly not the only one who thinks so, because there's a
Yeah.
lot out there now.
Real quick, before I go into my next question, how long did you have a Racing Heart series in works before it was published?
I started writing it, I want to say, in 2017. So
Wow.
it was sitting on my desktop for a long time before I shopped it around and found a home. So
That's good to know.
yeah.
And when you were writing your characters, Violet and Chase, which we love, by the way,
That was
um,
just the first book. That was Fast and Reckless was the first one I wrote, obviously, and that's the one
right.
it went through. It also, to be fair, like, it was on my desktop, but also I went through a lot of rewrites and a lot of changes
Mm-hmm.
over time. So it took me a while to get it to a place where I wanted to shop it around, and then it takes a while for a book to find a home. So
Would you say your second book had a faster process just
oh my
because
gosh,
of,
yes, so much
yeah.
faster. Like Fast and Reckless, it was the first time I was writing about racing. It was a
Mm-hmm.
new world for me to get into, and so, like I said, it used to have a whole different beginning, and I changed the way it started several times and rewrote huge chunks of it. But by the time I got to Violin and Chase and Kiss and Collide, I kind of knew the world, and it came together so much faster. It was really straightforward.
So you kind of always knew how it was going to unfold when you started Kiss and Collide, or was there moments where the characters kind of took over?
No, I think it's different for everybody, but I'm very much a plotter and not a pantser. I don't know if you guys know that term from the writing community. Pantser means you write by the seat of your pants with no plan. The plotter is exactly what it sounds like. You plot, and I'm definitely a plotter. Like, everything I write, like, is outlined from the start. Like, I know where it's going to go. Sometimes I'm a little fuzzier about how to get from point A to point B, and sometimes I'm much more deliberate. Kiss and Collide was very deliberate. Like, I had the beats all plotted out, and the whole, like, every scene was planned before I started. So, and I prefer to work that way because it makes my writing process so much more straightforward and streamlined. But I don't waste a lot of time writing stuff. It's never a waste. Nothing is a waste. But I don't spend a lot of time writing stuff that I then end up having to cut later. So
Right.
I need a brain like yours when writing papers, clearly.
it's just how I work. I mean, I have done things without a plot before, but I just find that, like, halfway through it, I figure out what I actually need to do, and I have to go back and start over, basically. So,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I can see
no, that
that.
that makes a lot of sense. Now, I do want to know, you have different tropes, which I love tropes, and I know like everyone else on PGP is feels the same way. So like I want to know like what inspired the tropes that you wrote in your series. You had some workplace romance, enemies to lovers, friends to lovers, the he falls first, which is that one
My
I
favorite.
my favorite
well,
too.
I think the workplace romance, that was the appeal to Formula One for me, because actually, I don't know if you guys know this, I work in theater on Broadway.
Yeah.
So in a weird way, Formula One reminded me of that, like as a workplace thing. It's because like very much behind the scenes, like there's what we the audience are seeing in a race, but then like in the paddock behind the scenes, there's like a whole different world. And
Yeah.
I like that aspect of it, that like, what happens on the day to day behind the scenes, it felt familiar to me. So workplace romance was always, that's the appeal of Formula One for me. So I always knew that everybody involved in the books was going to be working for the team, if you know what I mean, like rather than like, from the outside. Um, and the first one, Forbidden Romance, just because of the nature of the plot that I came up with, like, that I wanted her to, off limits romance. That was key to that first book. The second one, I actually kind of wanted to do an enemies to lovers, but again, because I wanted them to be working for the same team. Violet and Chase, I don't think are ever enemies. I think he just annoys the crap out of her in the beginning. But then there's sort of like forced proximity because now suddenly they're on the same team. Friends, I say friends with benefits, because in the beginning I don't think they are friends. I think they're just buddies.
I agree.
No, same. I agree too. I was like thinking, how do I like put this? I was like,
Word it.
I don't know if I should like do friends with benefits. And I was like, I'm just gonna do like
strangers with
friends
benefits
loosely.
Coworkers with benefits.
There you go.
And I like the aspect of that too. It was very key to her personality that she would enter into a relationship like that. It's not really a relationship; it's just hookups.
Yeah.
And it was just fun to play with that, and how she would balance that. Like, I don't think she's had a fuck buddy at the job before, so someone that she sees every day, it was interesting for her to have to balance that.
I do want to ask, mentioning the people that she sees all the time, the side characters. I loved Rabia, Leon, I might be saying that wrong, Myra, Imogen, like their characters really, I think, brought life into her story. And I'm wondering, because I know you've worked in theater and around so many people, was there anyone that inspired these characters or the friendships and how they worked with one another?
Imogen is kind of based on a couple of people, at least I've met briefly. Like nobody would know, just like people I knew from work. Yeah, it's like sort of again a composite of a couple of women that I've worked with before, like the no nonsense, the person who actually knows what's going on, whether they're in charge or not. I feel, and again, I wanted to create a world that, from New York, I wanted to create a world that felt like the world I live in, where it's very multicultural and very diverse. And so I very deliberately went about doing that at this team, that everybody is like, and they're all coming together to try their best to do something together and to make something out of nothing. I very much wanted to create, unlike, it was fun to do it in the sense that it was so different from Fast and Reckless. Fast and Reckless, Lennox is like the best team on the grid, and Will is gunning for the championship, and he gets that. And that was fun to write, like that sort of top of the heap thing. And I wanted to do the exact opposite in the second book. I wanted it to be like the worst team on the grid, and they've got everything going against them. There's no chance, and they're dysfunctional, and it's a mess, and somehow they have to pull it together and make it work. And so it was fun to write because it was so different.
Yeah.
I will say that reminds me of the moment in the beginning where they're like, we've been sold to Americans. And I could not stop laughing because I'm like, you're right. That is the worst fate.
It is.
Americans.
Now,
Glad that line got left.
oh my God, no.
We all
have it
laughed
in our
at that.
I think being Americans, he was even funnier because we were like, we get it.
Yeah.
We get it.
You truly do.
Formula One space, you totally get it.
But with everything going on in Formula One, we noticed there was like a few characters that maybe matched like Christian Horner with their sexism and things like that. So I'm just wondering if there was any real world motorsport moments or even eras or teams that maybe inspired those scenes in the storyline and like how those characters were acting.
I will say that he's not based on Christian Horner, but that sort of sexism and like that's been a thing. I mean, Formula One's they're doing their best actually to try and bring. They're appealing to the women in the audience. They're trying to get more women into motorsports, and it is working. There's a lot of women behind the scenes now, and it's great. But like I feel there's still a lot of those like old boys clubs people
Yeah.
there, and Christian Horner is absolutely that. Zach Brown was kind of that too. Like, just from a different era. Yeah, exactly. Just the worst. um, so I sort of drew on all of that vibe to create Oscar, and can I say this? Can I get political on this podcast? The son, oh my God, I just blanked on his name. Reese. Reese is based on Don Jr. Absolutely. Like, I was
I
picturing him.
never would have guessed, and now I feel like I need to reread the story.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to like reread and be like, let me see.
So yeah, that's where that came from. The fail son.
Ooh, okay.
And gets stuck. Whatever. He's got far more access than he should. It's all based on his money. And and I just finished reading Succession. I just finished watching Succession when I started drafting this, and so their owner is based on Kendall Roy from Succession. That's exactly what I was imagining when I wrote it. So yeah, there you go. And as far as the team, it was absolutely based on Williams, but from a couple of years ago before they had their current glow up. So like, a small team, sort of family owned and run was the idea. It's not corporate. They didn't have a lot of corporate backing. And so
Right.
like that transition from being like a hometown team to being like, corporate and bigger, like that's just what I do with Pinnacle.
Williams. I think Williams, yeah. I'm so upset
I
that
love Williams.
they're
I
no
was on
longer.
your team, actually.
Oh, really?
I love that.
That's good.
Love
to
that.
know.
Now, Amanda, is there a scene in either one of the two books that readers will slide into your DMs about something that just brought the shock value to them?
Not necessarily the shock value. The one I get a lot of questions about is it doesn't exist in the books, but Violet and Chase's one night stand that opens the book. We know it happens, but it doesn't happen on the page. Initially, that's what opened the book. I wrote the whole scene. It exists. It stayed for a while, all the way through edits, and then at a certain point, like the editing team was like, it just feels like we're not invested because we don't know them yet, and so we should maybe not see this happen. And so it ended up happening off the page, but it does exist. And at some point, I figure out how I want to do it, but I want to like make it available to readers.
A little bonus chapter.
Bonus chapter.
Exactly.
Bonus chapter
Because I
at
was
the end.
really happy with the scene. I thought it was like sexy and fun, and it turned out really great. I loved it. And then just, sometimes you have to kill your darlings in editing, and it got axed.
Yeah, no, we'll be on the lookout for that bonus chapter for sure.
It'll come.
Yes. Please, please, please. Now, was there a moment in your journey writing these stories that you thought this is actually happening? Like a full on pinch me moment?
Oh gosh, yeah. For the first book, Fast and Reckless, my agent had sent it out. She's like, she always, when she sends a book out on submission, she sends me an email and says, we're on submission with this editor at this press and this editor at this press. And she said, oh, and I just had a meeting with this press, Zando, and they don't do romance, but they're spinning up a romance imprint, and they're interested in acquiring stuff. And so I submitted it to them too. And I was like, I've never heard of them. That's great. And it happened so fast. I remember it was Tuesday, and I was meeting some friends for drinks after work, and I was early, and my husband was coming too, and we were both early getting there because we were coming from work, and they weren't coming till like 7. So he and I met for a drink before the drinks, basically, and I just sat down and ordered my wine, and it was like 6 p.m., and my phone lights up with my agent's name, and I'm like, my agent's calling me at like 6 o'clock on a Tuesday, like something's up. So I took the call and I went out on the sidewalk, and she's like, so Zando's reading, they love it, they want to schedule a meeting, are you free on Monday? I was like, yeah, I can do a Zoom on Monday. So it ended up happening, like, if you don't know publishing tends to happen so slowly. Like something goes on submission and it can languish in inboxes. It's just like they get a lot, they get a lot of submissions, and it could take months and months and months for them to even get around to reading it, just so they can reject you and say no thanks. And so when we went on submission with that, and here's the funny story. She was like, oh, before all this happened, my agent was like, oh, it seems like Formula One's having a moment. She's like, I know you have that thing on your your hard drive. Like else had just gotten a big
Hmm.
deal for a Formula One book. She's like, I know you have that book that you drafted. Do you want to try sending it out? And at the time, I have one regular job in theater, and sometimes I take on second jobs in theater. And I was in the middle of a second project, so I was like up to my eyes with work. And if she had asked me 24 hours sooner, I would have said, I do not have time to get that book ready to go on submission. I have too much going on right now. I had tested positive for COVID the night before for the first
No.
time. It's the only time I've ever had COVID. I got tested positive for COVID, which meant I was out of work for 5 days. I had to be in quarantine. So I said, well, you know what? Actually, I have time. So I spent my COVID quarantine getting Fast and Reckless ready to go out on submission because it wasn't quite ready. I was in the middle of rewriting some stuff again. And she sent it out. And then I thought, oh, great, we're on submission. And now I don't have to think about it for like 6 to 9 months because that's how long it takes
Wow.
writing for things to happen. And then this Zando, like literally the next week, they were like, they want to meet with you, they want to talk. And within 2 weeks, I had a contract. And it was just this crazy pinch me, like, how did this, like in the middle of all the other things that have going on, I just sold a book and it was like a really big deal. So
Oh, that's exciting.
it was fun.
All happened
Like
so fast.
moment.
I do have to ask, from what you started with in your story to what we read in ours, how much would you say ended up being removed or changed?
um, for Fast and Reckless, I would say by the end, almost everything had been rewritten. Part of that is editing, like moving things around, and you change it to get to for more drama or to change the arc of a character or whatever. And also, like Will evolved quite a bit while I was writing. Like he started out much more of an asshole, an alpha hole, and I have a hard time writing. I intended him to be an
Yeah.
alpha hole. I have a hard time writing them, even when I intend to. They always like turn into squishy, nice boyfriends. It's just like they just always end up there. And I just decided as I was writing, he was evolving in the editing process, and as I rewrote the book over the years, and I thought, oh, you know what, I think I want this to be different. So in the course of like revising that, it kept changing and rewriting. If I have to go back and look, there's probably a few scenes or moments that stayed in from the very original draft, um, but almost everything else changed.
Wow.
But
Okay.
as the flip side of that is Fast Kiss and Collide, almost everything. I mean, like I rewrote a couple of scenes, and added in a little and took a little out from the first draft to the finished draft, but it was pretty much like how I wrote it was how I had to say. I mean, like for example, like the scene in Kiss and Collide where they're in Paris, the whole the film shoot, the magazine shoot, and then they go to
Mm-hmm.
dinner, and then they have a night together. Um, I wrote that entire scene, beginning to end, the whole sequence, in one day. I was home from
Oh,
work
wow.
and I was just on a roll and I had no interruptions, and it was like the most I've ever written in a single day. I was just like I powered through it, and it's pretty much like it got cleaned up a little in edits, but it's pretty much what I wrote. Like my
Oh,
first
wow.
first draft of that scene is like what's in the book.
I love to hear that the process throughout the second book was almost vastly different, at least when it came to your editing. So, when it came to editing and your editors, was there, because you're one of the first interviews we're doing, and this is like a question we had every single episode. What happens with the F1 teams and the racing schedule? Do you guys not allowed to use like Ferrari and McLaren or like the
It's
racing schedule?
it's a little vague. Like Formula One is like a brand and it's
Yeah.
owned. And, typically when you're writing, you want to avoid using names of things, but it's hard to write a racing series without saying Formula One. And they don't seem to care. Like they don't come after anybody for that.
Hmm.
So, like, I think we're allowed to talk about Formula One as the playground that we're on. I suppose I probably could use real team names, but for me, I just felt like people who know racing are going to come in with preconceived notions. I prefer to like create my whole world and my own teams and real. Not use real people, not use real teams,
Hmm.
and then I could do whatever I wanted. Like I would feel bad using a real team and then saying shitty things about them in the book.
Yeah.
Like if I put Williams in the book and said like they're the worst team on the grid, then like yeah, I'd rather create my own team and then I can say whatever I want. Um, and then as far as the schedule goes, I actually create the schedule myself for both books. I And I actually started with an existing schedule. Like I just put
Hmm.
it into a spreadsheet. And then I created it based on where I wanted certain scenes in the book to happen in the timeline. So I moved things
Hmm.
around that way. So for me, both books have their own racing schedule. It's based on reality, but it's not an exact copy of reality. So
Okay. I
That's
do
actually
want to
really
know,
interesting to know.
yeah, how like they plan it out because it's always like, how did they do this? How did they do that? I do want to know how, speaking of that, like the making up the names, and how do you think of the team names?
I think they just come to me. I don't
Yeah.
recall spending a lot of time agonizing over it. And again, I wanted it to feel like reality in the sense that that some are more corporate and some are from different
Hmm.
countries, and so like I tried to mix that up and make some of them sound more like hybrid names, like you get with Aston Martin, like
Hmm.
or to have like the corporate name enters into it. Um, and other or like Visa Cash App slash Sauber. I tried to make some teams that sounded more like that, and some that were more like legacy names, like
Okay.
Mercedes, or for like, and some that sounded like they could be car brands, like Mercedes, like Ferrari. Like I was trying to keep that same vibe without copying anything.
Okay. Now, I know you touched up a bit on this, how you said that you're more of the plotter, right? Instead of like versus I think
Pantser.
planner. Yeah, pantser. And
It's
then how
plotter versus pantser.
okay.
Question to ask
And
writers because everybody has an answer.
you know what? We're gonna definitely take note of that. Um you mentioned you're more of the plotter, but then also how like when it came time to submission and then working with the publishers, you had to change a lot of like little details in the scenes. So were there any scenes like in general, like during your writing process or like even after it's been submitted and the editors came back that had evolved differently from what you originally planned?
I would say much more in the first book than in the
Hmm.
second. Like I had rewritten the beginning, the opening of Fast and Reckless so many times, and it opens so many different ways. And even still, when we got into editing, there's a character in Fast and Reckless, Penelope, who was
Hmm.
a team assistant who's out on maternity leave. She used to be on the page. The book started with her and Miranda on the page, and I
Okay.
actually loved that scene. I loved Pen as a character. I loved writing her, and she was really funny and like frazzled and hard ass and like like funny for us. She's not a humorous character at all. But the dynamic and how she's like throwing all this information at Miranda. And Miranda's like, "Oh my god, what have I got myself into?"
Hmm.
Um, she's like a major general marching through Lennox, making everything happen on time, and she was just hilarious to write. I loved her, and my editor was like, I just don't. She's like, I know you love her. I just think she's like, we need to get right into our characters, and she's just a distraction. And I totally understood. It's like we say in writing a lot of times, you have to be willing to kill your darlings. Like just because you
Hmm.
love it doesn't mean it's serving the story. And in the end, having the book open and having Pen on the page in the opening wasn't serving the story. So she ends up being just referred to. And instead we have Violet be the first person. And since Violet was gonna be the lead for book two, like that just from a serial standpoint, it made sense to like get her on the page sooner. So
Got it. Okay. Okay. So when you're starting your books, right, a fresh new story and everything, what gets you into that flow state to begin your stories?
I'm a plotter, so I spend
Hmm.
a lot of time hacking out the plot, the outline first.
Hmm.
And I have, as the years have, I've been writing for over 10 years at this point. As the years have gone on, I found tricks to sort of get myself into the right headspace. Like
Hmm.
I tend to, when I'm at home and on my laptop and hanging out, I tend to be in my kitchen. But when I start writing, I move to my dining room, which is where I am now. And I have a space and I sit down and I have a playlist that's called the work playlist. And I only put it on when I'm writing. And it's like a way of trying to like trick my brain into like when you hear these songs and when you're in this place, you're at
It's
work.
time to work.
It's time to write. So I try and be disciplined about that.
Hmm.
That said, I travel a lot for work, so I sometimes end up writing on planes or in hotel rooms. I will do it wherever I have to, but when I'm home, I try and be really disciplined and put myself into the space and get to work. Um, and I have a day job, so I have to be disciplined. I have to be like, okay, it's time to write.
Balance all that out. Now,
Yeah.
what songs do you like listen to? What songs are in your playlist?
It's all a bunch of like it tends to be I listen to all kinds of music. Oh my God, I'm a
Hmm.
huge 80s pop fan. I have like this massive 80s playlist that I listen to in my life all the time. But when I'm writing, I tend to like things that are less intrusive. It's all a bunch of like singer-songwriters and nothing that I know too well. Like I try and keep it like more like stuff that I find stuff off Spotify that gets recommended as like the same vibes. And I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
it's like vibes. Like the playlist from a coffee shop. Like it's just vibes and it's not really intrusive and it just,
Hmm.
it's there to keep my brain, that part of my brain active, but it's not gonna, I don't get distracted by like, oh, I gotta sing along to this one. There's no
That's me.
Taylor on it. As much as I love
That's
Taylor, there's no Taylor on my work playlist.
that happens to me when I'm working. I'll put in my headphones. I'm like, oh, I like this
Yeah,
song.
yeah. And like no podcast, no audiobook, no, it's just all
Yeah, yeah.
just need like, the coffee shop vibe.
Hmm. Now, if you get writer's block, how do you handle that when those writer blocks come up?
Fortunate, I guess, that thus far, knock on wood, I haven't ever really hit serious writer's block. I've
Hmm.
certainly hit points where I'm like, I just don't like it's like pulling teeth getting words for this chapter. Um, for me, the fact that I'm an outliner means that I'm never staring at a blank page. I've already given myself like a roadmap to follow. And so, like, if I really can't crack through this, and I also tend to, and not every writer is this way, I tend to write from the beginning of the book to the end. Like, I don't bounce around. Um, it's just that's what works for me. But if I really find I can't get through a scene, I either go back and rewrite something else from
Hmm.
before. Because usually, if you can't write a scene, it's because you fucked up something before that, and you like it's not, it doesn't feel natural because you haven't laid the groundwork.
Hmm.
Or I'll bounce ahead to write something I do know just to get myself going again, and then I go back and try and fix it. So
Okay.
I do want to ask, has because you said you write the book from beginning to end, so you don't have any scenes that you think of, and then you have to figure out the roadmap to get there.
oh no, 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 I will definitely have scenes like very clear, like Violet and Chase in Paris. That whole
Hmm.
scene is like in my head. I could see it like a movie, but I don't let myself write it until like I write up to it and then I write through it. I just find for me
Ah.
that works. Like
Oh,
some people like, and it's almost like putting a carrot on a stick. Like I'll have scenes that
yeah.
I envision when I'm first
Mhm.
plotting out the book, when it's first coming to me, and I'm in love with the scenes. Can't wait to write them. I'm so excited about them, but I don't let myself write them until I've done the work and gotten myself up to that
You
point.
work up to it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I like that though. It's like something like you're working towards like that exciting
Yeah.
scene that you've had in your mind for
And
like,
that's the scene that like gets your juices flowing about the
yeah.
story. And so I don't want to blow it all and then have
Right.
to go back and do the hard work of
It like
creating
gives you the push to get
it.
there.
Gives me the
Yeah.
push to get there.
I
That
like
makes
that. That's really
sense.
cool. That's really cool. Now, would you say, Amanda, your writing style is more Red Bull chaos, Mercedes precision, or Ferrari's passion? Or if you want to say William something with Williams or
I
a
think
different team.
it's Mercedes precision, but like the Williams scrappy determination.
William's dedication.
With Williams
Yes, their
dedication,
dedication.
they just keep slogging away. I
Yeah.
love that. But as
Hey,
far as
there.
like my technique, it's like the
Mm,
Mercedes precision, the outline and the
mhm.
research and the yeah,
Okay, okay.
spreadsheets.
Now, this question I've been excited to ask you. Pick a word for each of your books to describe just one singular word, Fast and Reckless, and for Kiss and Collide, without using the words from the title.
Reckless, um, yearning,
Okay.
and kiss and collide, passion.
Ooh.
I think.
Ooh, okay, okay.
I agree. I really think Kiss and Collide was definitely passion. Like, that was a lot.
That's
Now,
probably the most heat.
really? I honestly think when I was reading Kiss and Collide, there was moments where I like threw the book because I would text Melissa and I was like, "Did you read this? What is this?"
And I'll be like,
Um,
yeah, I've been read that like a few days ago.
She's supposed
because
to like the book is a response. I mean, Violet is supposed to drive you a little crazy. I mean, she's
yeah, there was a lot of like push for her, and that honestly makes me ask, like, who ended up being your most fun character to write, and was there anyone that was like the hardest to write?
um, she and Chase were actually both really fun to write, and To be fair, she was already on the page
The
from Fast and
first.
Reckless, and she was fun
Hmm.
to write in Fast and Reckless too. I just like her. I liked having somebody who was just like she was the foil to Mira. Mira was so like buttoned down and work focused, and Violet was like the opposite of that. That energy, that like chaotic. Like why the fuck not? You need
Hmm.
somebody like that in the book. And so she was always fun to write in Fast and Reckless, and then letting her have her whole book was like really fun. And digging into like why she is the way she is and what her backstory, because I hadn't figured any of that out until I decided to write a book about her, that like she has this backstory, and like it was just so she was like really really fun to write. And honestly, I didn't have a lot of plans for Chase. I just knew he needed to be a foil for her, like where she's like in control and she's confident and she knows what she's doing and she's got everything under, like she's got a plan for all of it, and he's just like this chaos demon who like who just creates problems for her, like he's just this mess that she's got to like pull together. And so just knowing that what he everything he wasn't informed who he was. And then like as I wrote him, he ended up being this like really fun sort of golden retriever character. He's a lot of fun. He just sort of he came together in the I knew like again like what his purpose in the story was, but the personality he developed as I wrote him was really fun. So
Yeah, he
because
definitely was a lot
I
of fun.
didn't have him fully fleshed out when I started writing, and he just sort of came to life on the page.
Yeah, no, I had fun reading Chase. Again, I have to revisit that book because now I'm like, let me see if I can point out who's who and everything. Now, is thinking about your main characters in both stories, if they had showed up in the F1 paddock, who would they vibe with, or who would they totally clash with, not get along, like stay away from me?
Um, I think Mira would immediately click with Ruth Buxom, who I just
Hmm.
adore. I think she's so smart and interesting, and I love her commentary. And I think Mira would like totally be drawn to her. Um, to be fair, Violet doesn't make a lot of friends easily, so I don't know if she'd make Paddock friends. I know she would. I think Zach Brown and Christian Horner would have driven her around the bend. Like she would have had no time for them,
Oh.
None at all.
none at all.
Now, I want to circle back to something earlier because I was interested about it. I know when we spoke, you said that your husband would help out with some of like the race specifics, like those kind of scenes. And I was just wondering, like, what's that process like working with your husband and like writing the story? What did he think of the story being such an F1 fan?
He loves it. He loves it. He loves that I wrote them. He
Ooh.
loves being part of it. So the way it works process wise is that as I'm writing and I'm doing a race scene, I know dramatically what has to happen in the race. Like it needs to be this kind of drama on the track. This kind, like this person needs to be able to go from this to this, and there needs to be an incident, and there needs to be that. And he takes all that in, and he goes away, and he's got this he's like one of the sports stats guys. He can pull up like races and things, and he'll be like, look at Spa in 1995. I go and look, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay. And so like what he tries to give me is a real race moment in history that kind of does what I'm doing, and it helps me visualize like how,
Hmm.
like once I see it in a video, like I go back and look at it on YouTube, I'm like, okay, now I know how to write it, and I know how much of it I want to see in the book. um, for instance, you guys asked me about this, the Miami, the last race in Kiss and Collide. I
Hmm.
set it in Miami because I'm from Florida. I know Florida weather pretty well, and I wanted to like have a rain race, like where that
Yeah.
real Florida weather like affects the race. And I've been to Miami. I met you there, Chelsea. I've been to Miami twice and seen the race there, so I felt like it was like I wanted to make Miami the location. And I told him what happened. Oh, and my my editors, when I was writing the second book, they were like, he needs a big win. Like maybe he can like win the championship. I'm like, and this is the fun part of working with
Yeah.
editors who
Hmm.
don't know Formula One very well. I'm like, that's not the cards for this team. Like he needs to have a win, but he can't
Yeah.
win the championship. That's
The
just
whole
like
thing, yeah.
nope, 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 not so like it needed to feel like that was the hard part too, was like giving them a win that felt like for the readers like a huge win without it
Hmm.
being like the championship, because that's just not in the cards for Pinnacle and Chase like that in the first season, and it can't happen. So like I had to figure out how to get them there and figure out a realistic win that could happen, but that felt huge, And like it needed to be dramatic and huge stakes, and then I had to work backwards. I'm like, okay, if he's going to win a race, like be on the podium, what's the most realistic way that he could get there? And so Matt started throwing me races like where chaos happened,
Mm-hmm.
and that
Mm, yeah.
maybe I could use the chaos to give him an opening. And the one that I looked at was the one I mostly based it off of was Spa. No, it was Hungary, uh, 2021, and it's like that opening. Yeah, you guys should look them up on YouTube. They're all fun to watch.
I was gonna say, was that the one that Lance had won the race? I
I don't
think.
remember who won it, but Botas, it was the same scenario. It's that open, like they're all, it's the start where everybody's like,
Yeah.
driving really aggressively, trying to get out in front, and it's the first turn, and it was raining, and Botas like slid and took out Perez and Norris and Verstappen, and in that same mix-up as everybody was hitting the brakes, Stroll took out Leclerc, and so like by the first race, the first corner, five cars are out of the race, so you're down to 15, and then like later on in the race somebody took out somebody else, so there was a pit lane collision and somebody was out, so like
Mm-hmm.
just like one chaotic moment after another that he's not necessarily causing or in, but
Right.
clear the way for him to actually achieve something great. The other ones you guys should look up, as we were looking at different races to base that on. 2012 Spa was also really good, and the big one was 98 Spa, because
Okay.
that one was crazy, and it was before the halo, so it was really, really
Oh,
dangerous. One car went over,
Ooh.
oh my god, what's his name? I just blanked.
oh, they went over another driver?
Another driver, and scraped the top of the car and almost decapitated. He was fine, but like
Oh
couldn't
my
have
gosh.
taken off his head. I mean, it was like really scary. It was a really
This is
scary
why
moment.
halos are important.
That's why halos are
Exactly.
important. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. So, but anyway, I look at a lot of races like that and
Mm-hmm.
see which one gives me the most dramatic possibilities, and then I kind of tweak it to do what I need to do. And then of course, because it's Matt and he's obsessed with tires, the tires had to be made, and to be, it's was true. Like the choice of tires, like ended up being a plot point, and
Yeah. They matter. They do.
They
yeah, they
do.
do matter. He's right. They do matter.
Especially if you have F1 fans reading the book, like we
Yeah.
appreciate that. We're like,
Yeah.
that's so
and,
realistic.
and it's so like it's great to have an editor who doesn't really follow racing, because she'd be like, I don't get this, and so I would dumb it down a little more, and like I'm trying to like leave enough racing in there to be
Mm-hmm.
entertaining for the people who know racing, but also
Right.
understandable for people who don't know anything.
Don't. Yeah. Yeah. Now,
See
we
that.
all know F1 is a high adrenaline elite sport. So, how do you balance the intensity of racing with the vulnerability of romance in your storytelling?
I think it just helps, because it's just like these high adrenaline moments that they
Mm-hmm.
just automatically raise the stakes. Like there's so much at stake for these people professionally. It's dangerous. Like personally, there's like things can go wrong out there. Um, these people, everybody working in this sport is working at the highest level of the sport, and you don't get there by accident. They're all incredibly driven, like the drivers, and even the people like even Violet and Mira, who are behind the scenes. They're both
Mm-hmm.
incredibly driven, and they really, really want to succeed at what they're doing. And I like writing in that world where everybody's like the top of their game. It's just, this is a lot on the line. So I think it would be harder to make that story make sense if it was like a dirt track in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Like,
A little rally race, if you
yeah, a
will.
little rally race. It's just like Formula One, like the stakes are so high.
Mm-hmm.
There's so
Mm-hmm.
much attention on it, and so much, like the money and the glory of it.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Now, I
totally makes
would
sense.
love for our listeners to get to know you a little better, but is there anything you want to tell the listeners about your book before they start reading it?
I think so. I really do try to let them stand on their own. And like I said, like even though I guess I would say, if you don't follow Formula One, don't be afraid like to pick it up,
Yeah.
because like I
Mm-hmm.
said, I work very hard to make sure that even somebody who doesn't know anything about racing is going to be able to read it and enjoy it. So
No, I think I honestly agree. I think reading your story, there wasn't anything that was very like, you have to be an F1 fan to understand this. It's more like
Yeah,
maybe it would help,
yeah.
but the reading was still very entertaining.
And the
But
flip side of that is, if you are a Formula One fan, don't worry. I'm not gonna like. I know the complaint about some Formula One books is they're like, they get the sport really wrong, and it drives me crazy. That's not gonna happen.
Yeah. It was a
Sport
good
is right.
balance.
no, yeah. No, and I think it also helps like knowing your process into like how you did the schedule and like how you planned it out because we
Hmm.
don't, in our head we're just like, well, why isn't it the F1 schedule? And it's like, well, if I was the author, I'd probably do whatever I wanted to.
Yeah. And the F1 schedule, to be fair, changes a little bit. It can move. Races move around, and
Yeah.
tracks
Hmm.
come onto the schedule and drop off the schedule. So, um, I think there's room there to play around with it. So I just found out this weekend. I had no idea there used to be a Formula One track in Long Beach, California.
Oh yeah, that's really old, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't use it anymore.
I think I remembered in a history episode. But speaking of F1, I do have to ask, we know that you love Miami for the Grand Prix, but like, is there a dream track or a favorite track you would want to attend one day?
I really would. I really want to go to Hungary. So
Yeah?
do the Hungaro ring. Yeah. Well, because
What calls you to it?
I'm Hungarian. My family's Hungarian,
Oh,
and I just applied for citizenship in September. So waiting.
Ooh.
congrats.
Thank you.
Oh,
And I've spent the last 3 years learning how to speak Hungarian. So I really
That's
want
cool.
to see a race in Hungary. That would be fun for me.
that
And
would make a
frankly,
lot of
any of the
sense.
European races, any place in Europe is going to be fantastic. So I wouldn't complain.
I would love to go there. Do you have a
Same.
favorite driver on the track right now?
It's been a year of heartache and triumph for me. My two favorite drivers are Lewis and Carlos. So, it was a heartbreaking year for Lewis. Really not great.
Yeah.
But Carlos achieved so much more this year than anybody expected him to. So, and that
Yeah.
was wonderful. Like 2 podiums. I was just like,
It's so funny you say that because Melissa is our number one Lewis fan and I'm the number one Carlos fan. So you're like, you're with the right people.
You're with the, yeah, I was gonna say, I feel that pain, Amanda.
such a bad year for him. I felt so bad.
Oh, I know, I know. Yeah, I was funny enough. Like, I went to the Brazilian Grand Prix with my fiance this past November, and he is a diehard, like Lewis, like Colt LH 44. I also like Charles. So like when he joined, I was just like, yes.
Yes.
So like we were so excited. Yeah, we were so excited, and then I was just like, I cannot wait. He was just like Brazil was like his second like home, blah blah blah. And yeah, we were like, well, we're happy we got to see you live in person. Yeah, it is what it is. But like you said, like our dream would be to go to Europe and go to like one of the European tracks as well too, because it's just something about like I feel like something about being with the Europeans, and then there it's just
Like a spa race?
yes,
Oh, yeah.
yes,
I have a friend who's Italian. She like the support there and the support.
That's crazy.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and honestly, like what I really do, and I touched on it briefly, I think in the first book, but they had to cut me down quite a bit because I was writing so much about it, and they're like, nobody cares but you. The in the European races when they have all those travel offices and
Hmm.
the like the things that pop together and blow up to become like
They're
the
Legos.
offices, the race center, hospitality centers. I just think as a logistics nerd, it's just so cool, and I would love to
Yeah,
like hang out in the background and watch them like load in and put it all together. It's like it's so interesting to
yeah.
me.
It's literally a traveling circus if you
It
think about
is.
Yeah.
it.
That appeals to me. I work on, like I said, I work on shows, and so
Hmm.
I've had shows go on tour and stuff. So that part of it really, like packing it all up and putting it in a truck and driving
Hmm.
to the city, like that's kind of my world too. So it
Yeah.
feels familiar.
Yeah, no, it's always interesting because it's like, when did they start? Like, how long it really takes? It's a lot. Yeah, 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 yeah. It really is. Now, Amanda, is there any book that you are currently reading?
I am currently reading an old one because I had this like I bounce around all over the place. I had a plot bunny for a time travel romance, and so I'm
Hmm.
currently reading an old historical romance, Knight in Shining Armor. Um,
Hmm.
Judith McNaught, I think. I've forgotten the title, the author. But I'm only reading it because I wanted to read some time travel romance. Before that,
Ooh.
I finished Adriana Herrera's A Tropical. Uh, it was the first one in her historical series,
Ooh, okay.
Tropical Heiress for the Duke, I think, which was fantastic. So,
Ooh, okay. I like to ask because I'm just like, let me just add to that never-ending TBR.
Adriana Herrera's historical series is really good. So,
Okay. Okay, that's really cool. Now, is there any book that you wish you could reread for the first time?
oh, to Florand. I don't know if you guys know her. She's kind of quit writing, which makes me so sad. She wrote a whole series of books set in Paris that are sort of about chocolate, and some of them are about chocolate making, and some of them are about cooking, and some of them like perfume making, but it's all like a connected universe.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just so beautifully written, and they're all in Paris or in France, and they all have like beautiful locations. And her writing about chocolate, and like it's all very like sensual, like the sense stuff that she writes is like she just puts you in it. And I love them so much, and I wish I could go back and reread them all for the like. I found the first one, and I tore thhrou the whole series, and now I don't have any more to read, and I'm sad.
That's
Especially
the worst. So it's like when you finish and
Yeah.
you're just like, now what?
You just have to sit there.
writing. I'm just like, "Ugh, I wish I had those over to read. They were just so
Yeah.
wonderful.
I'm about to check those out because I love chocolates.
It's called The Chocolate Thief.
Yes, the first one I think is called The Chocolate Thief.
I
That looks
am
so
about to
good.
add that to
There's
my
like
list.
three that are about chocolate, and then like one of them is about a chef, and one of them is about a perfume maker, and they're all set in France, and the characters.
Now, there's been a lot of conversation about this next topic on threads and on Twitter. I call it Twitter. I refuse to call it X. On
Okay,
Twitter.
same.
Yeah, same.
I've been on Twitter since like 2009. It's going to stay that way.
I'm not on Twitter anymore, but I started in 2009.
Yeah.
Hardcore Twitter user. It was
Yeah.
believed, but yeah.
It was so
It's a,
good until it wasn't.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Now, are you a physical type of book person, ebook, or an audiobook
You
person?
know, I used to be strictly ebook because
Hmm.
my reading time is my commute, so I'm on the train, so I would read on my phone.
Okay.
Something happened, and I think it's post-pandemic or something. I just have a harder time focusing on ebooks, and so as an experiment, I picked up Adriana's book. Actually, I picked up as a hard copy, and that seemed to do the trick. So I switched back to physical books because it's just helping my focus. Like something
Hmm.
with I, the times we live in, being on my phone, just like I kept drifting over to check threads, drifting over to check Blue Sky, and so like
Hmm.
put it
Yeah,
away, read a physical book. My phone's in my pocket. I'm just listening to music, and actually, it helps me. It helped me get back to just like reading and enjoying it. Like yeah, so now it's
I
just
get that. I think ebooks just give you so much access to your phone
exactly that's
sometimes.
what I was finding. I was just like I would I couldn't stay focused on the book. I was just thinking
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
so yeah,
Yeah. No, I love my Kindle, but like there's just something about having that like physical
yeah.
book in your hands and everything.
hmm
Cause
It's
like
easier to
I
go
tried,
back when you remember something.
yeah,
And you're like, oh wait, what's what she said?
yeah,
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 exactly. Yeah. Cause I know a lot of people like I have like an iPad and of course like I could read off my phone, but then like you mentioned, like I'll easily just go back to like TikTok and just like
yes,
doom scroll
or my
for like,
messages or
yeah,
something.
exactly.
yeah. So I get
So
easily
yeah,
distracted.
I
So
have
I'm just like,
found physical reading helps me to like disconnect from all
yeah,
of the
no.
negative shit and just actually read the book.
Now, what kind of genre do you like to read?
I'm pretty much I wouldn't say exclusively romance, but like it's always romance. I sort of bounce back and forth equally between contemporary and historical. I've written both. I've written historical romance too.
Hmm.
So I really enjoy like hanging out in both worlds. I also read a lot of like nonfiction history. So
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Would you say you're like a history buff?
yeah, oh for sure.
Well, that's such a fun thing to know.
Yeah,
Well, you
that
know,
is.
I wrote historical romance. I'm actually working on a sort of historical piece now. So yeah, I get very
Ooh.
into the weeds with the research.
So is that like the upcoming project you have going right now? The historical
Yeah,
romance?
we're gonna as soon as we have a title, we'll announce what it is. But it's like it's new for me. It's like it's actually sort
Ooh.
of women's fiction with romantic elements.
Ooh,
And it's sort of it's historical, so not far history, but yeah, like in the past. And I'm excited about it. It's different and exciting and fun, and I'm working on that now. So I've always got like a million things in progress. That's the thing that I got. Like on deck, but I've also got like a contemporary romance that I'm 10,000 words into that like I'll touch and plug away at too. So
Do you think we'll see any more of like the Chase and Violet worlds?
I don't know. I don't think so right now. I'm not contracted for any more books. Never say never, but
Hmm. We'll see.
yeah, we'll see.
Okay. Now, are there any books that you would recommend readers or listeners check out if they're looking for more of your work?
I did a contemporary series that never got enough love. And the third book of the series came out March 19th, 2020. Truly disappeared into the sea of COVID. It's called the Romano Sisters, and it's contemporary. It's set in Brooklyn, which is where I live, and it's close to
Mm.
my heart.
Okay. Again,
Yeah.
adding to that long TBR.
And if people are looking for other Formula One romances, you should read Andy J. Christopher's Faster. It's fantastic.
Big fans here too.
Man, and she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah, that was a very fun read for
Yeah.
us.
I do have to ask, because you brought up Andy, and I don't even have this on my list of questions, but you were in the one that introduced us to Karen. How,
Yeah.
or Karen introduced us to you, I think.
Or maybe.
How do you guys, like, is there like a world of F1 authors and romance authors just talking all the time?
We just follow each other on social media. That's like, I've been following Andy for years, and I think it just happens like the way you follow anybody on social media.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you see like somebody that you know and are interested in talking to that person, and you watch that conversation. You're like, oh, I should follow that person, and then you follow them long enough, you comment on them, and then suddenly you're weirdly friends. And so, yes, Andy and I have followed each other from Twitter to Blue Sky to Threads like for years. And we actually just met in person the first time in October for we were both at Stevie LitCon, so we met
Ooh.
for that. I haven't met Karen in real life yet. So, and again, we just follow each other. We're about the same age. We both write romance. We're both in Formula One. So eventually you find each other like
Mm-hmm.
replying to the same things. So, it's
That's
how
so
all those friendships happen.
like fun though. You
Yeah.
guys have like this community going. And then I will say, speaking of community, how can our listeners connect with you?
I am not on Twitter anymore. I am on Blue Sky a lot, and I'm on Threads a lot, and Instagram is probably the easiest three places to find me.
And is that Manda Weaver out there, all of them? With the
Yes,
underscores?
I think I'm pretty consistent across the board now. So
Okay.
the Twitter, it was something different because somebody already had my name, but I think since all these new, I think I'm Amanda Weaver author everywhere else. So, and you can always go to my website, Amanda Weaver Novels, and all my social links are there. So,
Perfect.
Perfect. I need to use Blue Sky more. You brought that up, and I'm like, I think I still have that somewhere on my phone.
I find that
You do, because I follow you and you don't use it.
I find
Yeah.
that like they're good for different things.
Mhm.
Blue Sky, I follow a lot more like reporters and politicians. And,
Yeah.
and I get more like real world stuff. Threads, like the book community, the romance community
Yes.
especially, has really settled on Threads.
Yes.
So like that tends to be if I want to connect with readers and other
Mhm.
writers, I go find them over there. Not
Yeah,
as much as over on Blue Sky.
Yeah, no, I've connected with a lot of authors on Threads. I'm just like, this arc looks good.
Yeah.
Signs up.
Romance world seems to have really settled in on
Mm-hmm.
so.
Yeah, it's a fun place. It's a fun place. Well, that wraps up today's episode. A huge thank you, Amanda, for joining us today. We love hanging out with you and giving us a peek behind the pages. Fast Cars, Fierce Love, and Feelings All Between in the Racing Heart series. And of course, thank you to Publishing House for the advanced reader copies of Kiss and Collide. If you haven't already, again, she's already mentioned it, but make sure to check out more of Amanda's work and follow her online. Again, follow her at Amanda_Weaver_author on IG or Instagram, sorry. Blue Sky and Threads. Threads is a lot of fun. Don't be scared. And of course, don't forget to give us a follow at Paddock Girls Podcast, so you never miss an episode. And you can find us on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you love this episode or any other, please give us a rate, review, and send this episode to your bookish besties. And if you're lucky, we will share your review on a future episode. And we will be back next week where we're interviewing another author, Eliana Rose, the author of For the Thrill of It All. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Thanks again, Amanda.
Thank you.
Thank
Great.
you.
Take care.
You too.